Do you allow today's thoughts to hijack your future? I'm Sue Krautbauer, and I mentor midlifers, and I guide them through a quick start plan to getting unstuck. Each week, I share lessons learned from my own journey on taking back control of my life and teaching people how to achieve your personal or professional goals. Ever just know that someone else doesn't like you without really finding out for real? Oh, admit it. I bet at some point in your life you decided something similar about a person, and that little voice in your mind convinced you of it, when in reality it was completely untrue. That is called a thinking trap. Or in my university studies, they were called cognitive distortions. I like thinking traps better. Thinking traps are patterns of thought, usually with a negative swing, which prevents us from seeing things as they really are. These inaccurate thoughts are usually used to reinforce our own negative thinking patterns, telling ourselves things that sound rational and truthful in the moment, but in reality only serve to trigger feelings of negativity and pessimism. Here's a few thinking traps. Any of these sound familiar to you? Mind reading. Oh, I am definitely guilty of this one. This is a trap that I started out talking about. And this happens when we believe that we know what others are thinking and assume they are thinking the worst of us. The problem is that no one can read minds, not even you, and we can never really know what others are thinking. Unless, of course, we ask them. Worse still, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy where we act as if they dislike us, which makes them understandably pull away, which furthers the evidence in your mind for that negative belief. Oh, I just knew she hated me. Personalization is a distortion where you believe that everything others do or say is some kind of direct personal reaction to something you've said or done. A friend of mine likes to say, nobody goes to sleep thinking about you, I'm sorry to say. But in this particular instance, you end up taking everything personally when in reality, it's nothing to do with you. Additionally, you might also see yourself as the cause of some negative external event that happened, even though you definitely are not responsible for it. Labeling. Labeling is an extreme form of generalization. Labeling occurs when you attach a negative label about yourself or someone else rather than acknowledge it was just a single event or a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, including you, and we're way too complex to be described by just one word. What do you mean by one word, Sue? Well, example. I'm a failure. Instead of, well, I failed that time. The myth of fairness. If you suffer from this one, you often feel resentful because you think that you know what is fair and, well, nobody's abiding by it. It might sound obvious to say, but life isn't always fair, people. People who go through life assessing whether something is fair or not will often end up feeling resentful and angry and unhappy because of it. Because, well, life isn't fair. Things will not always work out in a person's favor, even when they should. And it's something we all need to learn to deal with. How about black and white thinking? This trap occurs when we only look at situations in terms of one extreme or the other. A situation is either good or bad, success or failure. There's no middle ground. And if you fall short of your own expectations, you view yourself as a total screw up, a total failure. But in reality, most situations are somewhere in the middle. For instance, let me think of one. Missing going to the gym once doesn't mean you failed your exercise goals completely. You had a small setback, and all you need to do is go back tomorrow. Or here's a famous one for me. I ate a piece of chocolate, so my diet is ruined forever. I might as well just give it up. Filtering. This one's somewhat similar to black and white thinking, but filtering involves only paying attention to the negative aspects of a situation, that half empty versus half full, while ignoring all of the positive. When you only focus on negatives, you end up viewing the entire situation as negative. And so, in your mind, everything about it is negative. This stops you from looking at all aspects of a situation and drawing a more balanced conclusion. Let's see, here's an example. You give a presentation at your work and you maybe flub up or miss a slide or something goes just a little bit wrong, and all of a sudden in your mind, you're thinking everyone hated my presentation because Jack, well, he looked bored and a lot of other people were engaged, but even if they gave me compliments, Jack and my boss, they looked a little bored and they looked at their phone. So it's terrible. And you just filtered out all the good stuff that everybody said. These thoughts, well, these and many others are just irrational and just plain wrong. In fact, it's not the event itself that causes feelings of negativity. It's your response to the event, your mindset. Let that sink in for a minute, because it's arguably one of the most important ideas in all of psychology. If our thoughts determine how we feel, that means how we habitually think will determine how we habitually feel. The practical implication is that if we want to change how we feel, we must learn how to change how we think. Specifically, we need to learn how to identify and examine our habits of thinking and talking to ourselves if we want to feel better on a regular basis and get unstuck. Specifically, we need to learn how to identify and examine our habits of thinking and talking to ourselves if we want to feel better on a regular basis and get unstuck and moving forward. Of course, there's more to mental health than our habits of talking to ourselves, but mental habits are an enormous and often overlooked piece of the pie of getting unstuck, getting your mojo back and moving forward and being downright happy. They also happen to be something that we all have direct control over, unlike aspects of our environment or our genetic code or other people that we have no control over. So, what does that have to do with getting unstuck and moving forward? Well, I cover this concept in depth in lesson 1 of my Kickstart Your Comeback online course. But, well, in all fairness to you, I'll not leave you with that cliffhanger. Here's one gem I pulled out of that material to share with you. This week, catch yourself in the act of thinking about what you tell yourself you can't do. If you enjoyed this week's message, as I mentioned, the topic was plucked right out of my Kickstart Your Comeback course. And if you'd like to learn more about Mindtraps, bad software, and how to get yourself unstuck and rocketing towards that awesome career, jumpstart your own business, or just reinvigorate your current life situation, then I encourage you to grab the course before the price goes up. It's a small investment in yourself that you won't regret. Click the link and check it out, and we'll see you next week.